Right, sorry about that delay. So, yeah, a couple of things. First is it took a little bit of time to plan this. Hope the mic's alright, there we go. Took a little bit of time fiddling about to plan this sector because it's really performance limited. And Concorde Performance System was actually saying that with the ambient temperature and 80 packs plus 25 kilos each packs, and probably a little bit of sneaky rum for the crew, that we wouldn't make it. I think that we would probably just about get away with it, especially with Concorde in X-Plane being slightly overpowered. So it's an 81-ton trip back. No subsonic initial section. So I spent quite a bit of time fiddling around with that, and unfortunately, what I did find was that Virtual British Airways, they've got the route coming out, but it's not listed for Concorde going back. And I've asked them to put that route in, and they said they'd get onto it. That was about an hour and a half ago, and it's still not appearing. I don't really want to do another sector without the flight tracking. So what I might do is scrub this sector, and we could do a Barbados, New York, and then maybe back tomorrow. Yeah, you might have to leave a few behind. I'm pretty sure I read a story recently where it was Barbados, and a family wanted to go back. I think they were overbooked by 2 passengers, and they were looking to offload the last people, and there was a family of 4, mum and dad and 2 kids, relatively young kids as well. But they got round it by sticking the 2 kids in the jump seats in the cockpit. What an epic trip that would have been, as long as you just sit there and shut up. Obviously, pre-9/11 days, so the kids could sit in the jump seats, so they could get them all back. That would just be epic. I mean, you don't even have to be a kid to think that would be epic. Yeah, other routes would be fun into the States. What I want to do, though, is just do a few more on Virtual British Airways, just to build up a bit of time with them. What I might do is volunteer to be a Concorde route manager and maybe put some fictional ones in. But certainly New York from Barbados, I think, is under 2 hours, so that's certainly doable. Let me actually just have a look while I'm here. So Kennedy, 1 hour 45, so that's a really quick trip, which would be quite fun. Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, it is grey, drizzle and rain here in the UK, well, certainly in London. So, like I say, it would be nice to get back and to really stretch the range. Like I said, it's a real stretch, so 81 tons. The alternate of Stansted is 2.5 tons, 5 minutes flying time, which would be a pretty direct get us to Stansted now. Holding fuel for 35 minutes of 6859, so you could get down to 6.5 was the minimum hold. 4 tons contingency, which is 12 minutes, gives a required fuel of just under 9.5 tons, 4 hours 32 minutes of fuel, with only a ton available, 10 minutes for taxi, giving a release of 95554. Like I said, 80 packs was what I planned for, and the payload to go with that, which I think was 1,800 kilos. And yeah, exceptionally performance limited. No subsonic steps, so this would be a full power departure. Gear at 500 feet, reheats off, obviously gear up, climb away initially at 250. You can just about do 280 with the nose down, but apparently it was very noisy, which I'd love to see modelled in this at some point. I think there is already a sort of a mod or an add-on for it. Nose up, and then get the speed up, and you've really got to peg VMO to get as efficient as possible to get back. I thought I would add some of the eye candy, just in case I don't end up doing this. I'll give it a couple more. I'll give it another 5 minutes or so to see if the route comes up. And then I think if not, replan, and I could probably. Now that may have to be a bit later because it's going to straddle dinner time. Dinner in the cruise was going to be my plan. And yeah, so the other issue was loaded up the sim, and I'll just get the frame rates up here. You can see 61 on the ground here, and the CPU down, GPU really down. Not that long ago, I was down to 30 odd, sat in the cockpit. So something is going spectacularly wrong with Vulkan. I've tried a few things. So Kaji Muscle, I had a chat with him yesterday after he posted some tips. I increased my page file to, I think, 8 gig initially. Stopped letting Windows manage it because that was doing stupid things. And I think I've raised it to 16 or 32. I might drop the max down to 16. We'll see. I thought that might help. And initially it was fine, so what I did the same as I did last time. I've got NVIDIA shaders set to generate each time rather than save. And the first two starts were okay. I did a test at Heathrow. I made it dark as well, just to simulate our arrival. And with Concorde looking towards the other terminal, we were getting, I think, about sort of 34, 35 frames a second, which I thought that's absolutely fine. I could live with that. So I then came here, loaded it up, and we were probably getting about 40, 45 frames in the cockpit. And as you can see, all I've got is X America here and default scenery, no mesh. I tell a lie, I might have mesh. Do I have mesh? No, I don't have mesh. The mesh doesn't come down this far, so this is bare X-plane scenery. I think X America covers this far down, but either way, the point being that doesn't affect it too much. It's all pretty default. And I was getting some decent frames, and then just to be sure, I turned it off, restarted X-plane again, and then the next 2 tries after a restart, no PC restart here, just X-plane restart, gave 30 FPS in the cockpit, which, considering that this has, you know, absolutely no add-ons, it's pretty horrific. Rio to Cape Town. Now I wonder, I'm a member of Air France KLM. They might have some Concorde routes. I'll just log and check that in a moment. Like I said, it does look like I'm going to scrub this because I don't want to. I would prefer to do the trip back, but I don't want to miss the virtual airline capturing it. And I'll see what I'll do is I'll see if I can fit in trips to JFK, and then we might do some fictional. I want to do all the routes that are available. We need to go to Iceland at some point as well. So let me log out of this. VAMSys is not a bad system. I know some people and some organisations, some virtual airlines have had issues with it. Let me see what Air France KLM has. Don't know what routes they have because I don't really I use them for the 7.3 trips mostly. Let's have a look at the destination map. France KLM Virtual. Firstly, I've got to find Rio. Don't think they've got any routes. Cape Town. No, don't have any of those, so you could do them. But of course, you could always do it on projectFLY or something like that. It's nice to have some tracking, although every now and then I do occasionally forget. But yeah, as you can see, switching back to OpenGL has apparently solved the issue, which again was not GPU bound, but was really hammering the CPU. So something in Vulkan somewhere is going really bad. I'd like to try and reproduce it, and I might try and record a couple of videos so I can at least submit them to Laminate. It's just so much grief though. Trying to figure out plugins and troubleshooting that they might want to do. To be honest, you know, I'm not sure I can be bothered. It's just a huge amount of effort that puts me off. And like I said before, when I've had that happen before, I've just gone to play Armour. Got back into that for a while, so I would really like to get this machine back to London. But I think it may be a 1 hour 45 trip later. Maybe give it a couple of hours after some dinner. Back to JFK and then maybe the same tomorrow. That would be a good turnaround trip to do. I'm sure if that was a real route, at least Barbados was scheduled for the winter. So I'll just look at it one more time, because even with the 4 hours, if I get planned early, it doesn't leave it too late. No, they still haven't done it, so I am going to scrub, but it was worth it just to see that Vulkan is the issue. See, those frames are pretty good there, 50 odd in the cockpit rather than, I think I was actually looking at 26, 27 in this exact same situation, actually with none of the vehicles shown. So sat here exactly as it is with nothing else was giving me under 30, which is really just an absolute headache. You can see shadows, I edited those, get those nice and crisp again. Still not perfect, but I mean, that's not bad, is it? It's certainly better than default, turning those up. The emergency comp putting me off as it was last time. So, I'm going to say thanks very much for joining, and I'm going to scrub the sortie at this point. I'll replan. I keep the planning sheet for when we do get back to Barbados to London, but I think a trip to JFK, probably arriving there evening or certainly hopefully not night time, and then also another trip back here will make for a relatively easy a couple of days, and hopefully the trip back to London. Like I said, I might volunteer services for route planning. There's a few more I'd like to do, like the trips to Bahrain and Singapore. I don't see why they couldn't add the Concorde routes. If there's one fictional one, you might as well add lots of fictional ones. I can understand them not doing any overland supersonic, apart from the ones where they were done in reality. But I certainly think they should have as many routes as possible, because it is quite fun, although 4 hour trip in Concorde is still relatively boring, so probably hit zero up at some point. So anyway, I'll leave you with the lovely outside shot of Concorde getting ready and fueled up. And if you haven't had a little tour around, you know, the cargo holds here do open up, so do the fueling points, and the airplane was really that shiny. I can testify to that. Even after a trip back from New York, stood on the gate at Heathrow, seeing the airplane come in like that, it was that shiny, if not shinier. You know, so these take a few attempts to get them completely working, but you can see there's the rear hold. I think there's a little bit of detail in the engines, and I think I've got the landing gear bay detail off because you don't really ever see that. I suppose I could toggle that on. Load utility vehicles, engine details. Oh no, I had engine details off. Oh no, so I do have the gear bays. What are we missing from the engines? I guess not much, so I could probably leave that off. Either during flight, I don't know if that means it only stays up or comes down. Anyway, so I have it, and it's still not very badly modelled. Like I say, I would like to see those doors actually nicely rounded, often as they are. But those are pretty minor in comparison. At least the aeroplane performs, if maybe slightly better than reality. So, 20-minute waste of time video, but thanks very much. I'll replan, and I'm just going to double check one more time that the route hasn't come up, otherwise we'll leave being a little bit late. No, still not there. I'll relog in just to be sure. No, still not there. So I'll scrub it and we'll go to JFK. Come back from JFK and then hopefully ready to go back to London then. That'll be fun, especially heading up the channel as the route. I don't think I can show it on here. As Barbados, the route would take us the Great Circle again, but instead of going into the Bristol Channel, it would take us right through the channel. We'd decel somewhere here at what is that waypoint? TAKAS. Can I list waypoints here? No, you can't. Yeah, I don't know why that doesn't work. It's a bit weird. Oh no, here we go. So TAKAS there, that's the decel point. And there's the others that we're familiar with. Lullock's on the way in, Leslie on the way out. It's the same FIR boundary. TAKAS was the decel. And then we would be heading pretty much in a straight line, I think, to ORTAC, which is here. There's ORTAC. Again, I think that's on the FIR boundary. And then we'd be heading into Heathrow that way. So that's the only route that Concorde, BA Concordes were allowed to use the channel. So that and the fuel required and everything else makes it quite an interesting flight. The cruise is pretty boring, but keeping an eye on the fuel keeps you on your toes. So, look forward to doing that. I'm going to replan and I'll see you again later. Thanks for watching.